For 20 years, a very specific rumor has followed the bee around. The story goes that if the bee disappeared, humanity would have exactly 4 years left to live. And to give that countdown clock some serious weight, it is almost always attributed to Albert Einstein. Fact-checkers and quote historians have scoured letters, speeches, and interviews for decades, and they have found absolutely no evidence he ever wrote or said those words. Researchers trace the phrase back to French beekeeping pamphlets published in the 1990s. The authors needed their warning to sound urgent, so they simply attached the name of a famous physicist to it. Relying on a fake, dramatic countdown clock is a dangerous shortcut. When people inevitably learn the quote is made up, they stop trusting the warning altogether, which blinds us to a very real crisis happening right now. This chart tracks managed honeybees since 1961. The number of hives hasn't dropped. It's gone up by more than 80%. This massive upward trend is driven by human demand, scaling up rapidly to meet the industrial need for honey and agricultural pollination. The insects truly facing collapse are the roughly 20,000 species of wild bees, the ones nobody feeds, treats for disease, or trucks across the country. Panicking over the extinction of the commercial honeybee is like worrying that factory-farmed chickens are about to disappear. It is a massive misdiagnosis that distracts us from the unmanaged wild insects actually holding our natural ecosystems together. Wild pollinators are not dying off in a single, sudden extinction event. Their decline is driven by a stacking combination of ordinary, everyday human decisions. The Varroa destructor mite is a highly aggressive parasite that originally spread from commercial apiaries. It now infests colonies worldwide, physically weakening wild bees and transmitting severe viruses. Then there is the chemical exposure. Neonicotinoid pesticides are sprayed widely across agriculture. Even when the dose is too low to kill an insect outright, it severely damages their navigation, memory, and immune function. At the geographic level, industrial farming replaces sprawling, diverse wildflower habitats with single crops. These vast monocultures offer a massive amount of food for a few weeks of the year and absolutely nothing the rest of the time. Add in changing global temperatures, and the ancient timing relationship between when flowers bloom and when bees emerge from winter hibernation is thrown completely out of sync. There is no single villain we can easily pinpoint and remove from the equation. It is a slow death by 1,000 small cuts. If these vulnerable wild pollinators completely collapse tomorrow, the immediate result for humanity would not be a sudden global famine. The foundational crops that supply an enormous share of our global calories, staples like wheat, rice, and corn, do not rely on insects at all. They are entirely wind-pollinated. But calories are not the same thing as nutrition. The crops that do rely on animal pollination are the ones that actually keep us healthy. Apples, blueberries, avocados, almonds, and dozens of other fruits and vegetables. Humanity survives without bees, but our plates lose their color and nutritional density. We would be left surviving on a monotonous, degraded diet of grains. Natural pollinators generate between $235 and $577 billion of agricultural value every single year, completely for free. Without them, we have to replace that free labor. In regions of China where pesticide overuse wiped out local bee populations, farmers have resorted to pollinating fruit trees by hand using small brushes. It is incredibly slow and highly expensive. Engineers are experimenting with robotic and drone pollination, but the technology is far too inefficient and costly to scale up to a system that feeds 8 billion people. Removing the free labor of insects triggers a slow-motion economic squeeze. Fresh, vitamin-rich produce becomes an unaffordable luxury item for the vast majority of the population. This diagram illustrates a concept ecologists call substitution and simplification. If thousands of highly specialized bee species disappear, a few hardy, adaptable generalists, like certain flies and resilient bees, will step in to take over the pollination workload. The problem is that a biological network relying on 2 or 3 overworked generalist species is incredibly fragile. If a novel disease or extreme weather event takes out one of those remaining pillars, the entire system shatters because there is no biological backup plan left. And the impact cascades far beyond the human food supply. Insects pollinate the specific flora that grazing herbivores depend on. They grow the berries that feed wild bird populations. Pulling those biological threads unravels ecosystems built over millions of years, leaving a natural world that is measurably quieter, less colorful, and far less resilient. We built a food web on the backs of a tiny unpaid workforce that most of us never notice. Bees were never going to end the world in 4 years. The question is simply what kind of degraded world we are willing to accept.